Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at thedove.us. Okay, we're back, and our very special guest is Dr. Becca Johnson. Now, she's a clinical director of a residential program for female survivors of sex trafficking, and she's a licensed psychologist for over 25 years, and she's going to be this featured speaker of a very special day coming up June 3rd. That's a Tuesday, and it's going to be from 8 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon right here at the Rogue Valley Medical Center at the Smullen Center Auditorium, and she'll be speaking on this issue. And let me encourage you to sign up and be a part of that. So Dr. Johnson, nice to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to being in Medford.
Oh, you'll love it. Well, sex trafficking, as you know, we are Southern Oregon. We're just north of California. We're on the I-5 corridor, one of the biggest trafficking corridors in America, right here through our town.
Yes.
Tell us about this issue. How big is sex trafficking?
Well, I wish I could say it's not that big or not that bad, but it is actually horrific. It is, when you think about the top 3 criminal activities in the world, which is selling guns, selling drugs, and now selling people, human trafficking, or the selling of people, is the fastest growing, and it's horrible. They estimate 27 million people around the world are victims of human trafficking, and of that, 80% are women and children.
Wow. And this happens at a very young age. We've talked about how they begin to coerce their victims, but boy, it goes clear down into very young ages, doesn't it?
Yes. They say that the average age of entry into sex trafficking or prostitution is 12 to 13 years of age. There's been a lot of studies or research validating that. And so my figure of 27 million was all human trafficking, which includes labor trafficking, which we also have in this I-5 corridor. But sex trafficking is very fast growing because of this fact that the groomers, the pimps, the traffickers have found that they can lure these young girls, very young, as I said, 12 and 13-year-olds. They can just lure them by all this attention and affection, and especially they target young girls that have difficult family lives, but not always.
So why do so many young girls fall for it? I mean, how do they get drawn into this?
Well, unfortunately, so many of them have already been sexually abused by maybe a family member, a neighbor, a coach, a teacher, somebody. So they've already, in a sense, been sexualized and been victimized, and they've experienced a trauma. And perhaps they come from dysfunctional families, which a majority do, but as I said, not all. So here they are vulnerable. They've already been victimized, traumatized, and along comes this older, usually cute-looking young man, and he offers her the world, offers her dreams. I always say, if she needed a father figure, he'll be the protective father. If she needs a cute older boyfriend, then that's what he is. If she needs someone who's connected, like an agent, to get her a record contract or a movie contract, then that's what he is. He has all the connections. He makes promises. He listens to her, which a lot of people don't, maybe in her life. So someone that just says she's beautiful, she's special, she has talent, I'll fulfill your dreams, and it's an easy catch.
Once they are confiscated, then all of a sudden they just disappear.
Many of them do. And I was talking to one mother several years ago whose daughter was missing, and she was just wrought. She was just so beside herself, wondering where her daughter was. But I was told, and I don't know where the statistic comes from, so I can't verify it, but I was told that 95% of the girls that go missing don't have someone, frantically trying to find out where they are, because they've already been perhaps in a foster care, maybe in a group home. They've run away maybe before. So this time when they ran away, with the boyfriend, who's actually the pimp, no one is really looking for them. So pimps know where to target. They go to group homes, they go to malls where girls are maybe walking around unsupervised. They go to bus stops. They know where to go. In fact, there was I want to go ahead and finish this. There was a pimp that once said, you don't get it. We spend our whole waking hours trying to figure out how to deceive these little girls. Wow,
amazing. Now, part of your work is dealing with those who have been caught up in it for I don't know how, but in some way they came out and they now are trying to recover. I can't imagine that life and how long they've been in it. I've interviewed a few that were in it for a couple of years and finally escaped. Can they be healed? Can they come out of this?
Well, I believe definitely, yes. Not without a lot of work and time and patience and grace and mercy and a lot of love. But I do believe that healing is possible. And I've seen it, but I've also seen that it's usually not a quick fix, that it is a long process. And it takes all those things that I just mentioned.
What's the first step, Dr. Johnson, once they're out, to provide a safe place?
And that's so important because they've been in a place where they have experienced force, fraud, coercion, manipulation, threats. There's just so much involved. One thing I didn't say earlier, I'm going to backtrack, is that so many of them, when they first enter or first have this boyfriend, everything is wonderful. It's like their dreams have come true. And then slowly but surely, they get manipulated into doing things that they are not comfortable with. Or the boyfriend says, we need money to pay the rent, and I don't know what we're going to do, but my friend said he'll pay me, give us some money if you sleep with him. And once she does that, or hey, you could strip at the local stripper club and that would get us some money. And that's like the first step of getting her to go down the road of just starting to sell her. There's others I know. I know this one survivor who shared, she thought she met her Prince Charming. She was in college studying, and he was just wonderful, her knight in shining armor. Mm-hmm. And then she said it was like overnight, he just changed into this monster. Now, I do have to say, too, that not all girls in America go this route. I think most do, and that's the route through being groomed and manipulated and loved or falsely loved. But there's others that are in gangs, that are part of that family of a gang, and they have to service the gang and they have to provide for the gang, and so they have to go out and are told or forced to sell themselves. The third is a guerrilla, what we sometimes call a guerrilla pimp, and it's just someone that abducts girls and puts them out. Sometimes they will abduct girls and then violently violate them or rape them, gang rape them, and then turn them out and say, well, we know where your family lives or your friends or other people. And so it's not all this loving, grooming, manipulation. There are other ways of entry.
All right, let me take a break here, Dr. Johnson, and then have you come back and help us again how we also can help those who are in this and what we can do to get them out. And again, Dr. Johnson will be here in the Rogue Valley coming up Tuesday, June 3rd, and she'll be lecturing at the Smullen Center from 8 in the morning till 4:30 in the afternoon. And there is a charge for that, which includes a light breakfast and lunch. So you may want to check that out. And we'll be right back with Dr. Becca Johnson in just a moment. Okay, we're back, and our very special guest today is Dr. Becca Johnson, and she's a psychologist and a clinical director, a residential program that she heads up for female survivors of sex trafficking. And Dr. Johnson's going to be lecturing here in Medford coming up June 3rd, and I would encourage you, if you're working in this area and feel led to be a part of this and help people, She'll be lecturing at the Smullins Center there at the Rogue Valley Medical Center in the Smullins Auditorium from 8 until 4:30 on Tuesday, June 3rd. And you may want to call Rogue Valley Medical Center to get registered. Dr. Johnson, wow, this is so big. Can these girls ever learn to trust a man again?
It's interesting you said trust a man as opposed to trust anybody, because trust is a big issue, and trusting men, I think, is you're correct, is a lot harder. But I believe, yes, I fully believe that that they don't have to remain victims forever, that they aren't going to stay broken, that they can be healed, and that's possible, that they can trust again.
Can they receive God's love?
Well, I think that's a key ingredient to healing.
Mm-hmm. Because wouldn't they see him as a father figure?
I think it's different enough. But I guess that would be the case with anybody who's had problems with an earthly father or an earthly man. Mm-hmm. So it's not just unique to them. The thing that's so unique, if that's even the right word, for these victims of human trafficking is that they've not just been victimized once or twice or 3 times or 4 times. They have experienced multiple victimizations, multiple traumas. It kind of reminds me of a situation I had where I had an older daughter come in with her parents, and I have this checklist of traumas. And I asked the parents to check how many traumas they'd experienced, and I asked the older young adult daughter to check how many traumas she'd experienced. And the parents had about 4 items on this checklist. And the girl, who had experienced multiple traumas, exploitation, abuse, you name it, she had 18. Whoa. And I think it's hard for us to understand unless we have walked in their shoes, the amount of trauma that they've experienced, that what I say multiplicity of trauma, which then leads to an instability of trying to figure out and navigate the world, which then leads to an inability to cope and to deal with things. So really, they are in survival mode. But one thing I appreciate, and hope you don't mind if I keep talking here.
No, you're fine, great.
But one of the things I appreciate about people's awareness nowadays is that we have switched our perspective, that these prostitutes are now, we view them as prostituted. We see them no longer as criminals, dirty, filthy, trash, but now we see them as victims, and so worthy, however we view them, so worthy of love and hope. And that's what we want to do. We want to instill, that love and that hope, and that healing is possible. But so many people think of them as, oh, they enjoy the work, oh, they make a lot of money, they choose this. But the reality is being exposed, that they do not like the work. Who would like that? And that they don't choose it.
The reality of this is also starting to show up in some state legislatures where the laws are being changed now.
Yes, and that's wonderful. Across the United States, all 50 states are starting to toughen their laws. So instead of these people who manipulate and trick and, in a sense, rape, sexually assault our young children, and then use them and sell them over and over again, instead of like a 6-month slap on the hand and a small sentence, they're now getting 10 to 20 or more years in prison.
Are some of these suicidal when they come out?
The victims?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very much so. But again, they just, I guess because I view them so...
Well, obviously, God's given you a real heart for them. And
yes, because I know there's hope where they feel there's none. In fact, maybe if I share some of what they think,
yeah,
they have to tackle. When they are in the life of being prostituted, there's so many things going through their head. And when they come out, they still are very confused of what's what's real, what's not real, if they can trust us, if they can't trust us. But the things going on in their head are such statements as, well, I deserve this horrible life, or I chose this. At least that's what I was told, that
Wow.
I'm no good, I'm worthless. There's nothing better for me, that I'm to blame, I'm shameful, it's all my fault. I mean, I have a list of like 40 things that I usually share that's going on in their mind, just these beliefs that they are nothing and that they don't deserve anything and that it is all their fault. So we like to just really help them by exposing those lies. And I also, when I give seminars, I want the people to understand not just knowledge. I don't give seminars to help people increase their awareness. My goal is always to increase their empathy and their ability to understand from the heart. In fact, nowadays the big term is to be trauma informed, to make sure your programs and everything are trauma informed. And what I say is, I use the term, I want people to be trauma sensitive, because I believe that engages the heart. And to do that, we have to understand what they are thinking and what they're feeling. And when it comes to feelings, they're overwhelmed with that shame, that blame, that feeling of worthlessness.
Wow. It just appears to me you've been given a special anointing from God to do this, and that He's using your heart to do the power of His work, and I want to say thank you. A lot of times parents are in shock when they find out that their child's been involved in this. Even if they were taken away, or maybe they were involved on the side or some level. What can you say to a family member when they first get exposed that this is what happens, that they don't overreact the wrong way?
Yeah. Well, you said it perfectly, Perry, and that is that don't overreact, don't blame, don't shame, just love and accept. And again, it is very important that everyone sees them as victims. They may not feel like they're victims. We see a progression of them feeling like, wait, I did choose this, because that's what they were told to believe and manipulated. Well, you chose this. This is who you are. Mm-hmm. So to get them to go from this is who I am and I chose it to, oh, I was a victim, that takes a while. And so family who may want to immediately say, oh, that jerk of a pimp, she may say, but I loved him and he loved me. And so we have to realize that we have to go slow. There's that trauma bonding of still being attached if there was that emotional attachment. And so it's just, again, that grace, love, mercy, patience, all those things that are very important.
Dr. Johnson, it appears to me, and I know this is a simple question, and I don't want it to be that, but it appears to me this is all avoidable if parents know where their kids are.
I'd like to think that. And I guess the majority would be true, but I know the story of one girl who lived at home, went to youth group, and was targeted. And this guy just happened to always be around where she was at the, whatever, like a 7-Eleven or a Jamba Juice or someplace. And she got to know him. And then he would say, well, sneak out on Friday nights and let's hang out. So she'd just sneak out her window, and her parents would have no reason. She was a good student in school, junior high, and was going to the youth group and went to church on Sundays. And pretty soon they became involved. And then pretty soon he started selling her, but she still lived at home and went to youth group. So I think there is a point that I always use that example, and it's probably a rare one, but
no, but it makes your statement. Again, I'm glad to see, first of all, legislatures begin to recognize what this is. I'm really glad that we're talking about this openly, and more groups and organizations are beginning to deal with it. You're coming to town here because now we have an organization here in Southern Oregon that's beginning to deal with this. Thank God this is now beginning to be handled, and I only got about a minute left, but you are seeing girls come out of this, they're being healed and go on with their lives. Can you just give us a little example of that?
Oh, you know, what a privilege it is to come alongside. You know, you said earlier, oh, it's great what I do, but I want to bless the people on the front lines that are there doing outreach and telling them there is another choice, there is another possibility, there is a way out. Those are the people on the front line. I always said my motto is to help the hurting heal, but in recent years, I've been used by God to help the helpers help. So I'm helping those that are really on the front lines. Except at our local, our home recovery home here, I am the clinical director, so I oversee the counseling program, and it's a privilege. And also, you're talking about legislation, but also law enforcement is being trained.
Right.
And there's legislation being passed that all law enforcement has to become aware of the problem.
Well, Dr. Johnson, thank you. You're a delight. And let me just again encourage our viewers and listeners. She'll be lecturing coming up the 3rd of June, Tuesday, there at the Smolin Auditorium there at the Rogue Valley Medical Center from 8 till 4:30. There is a $25 charge, which includes meals, and so you may want to check that out. Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for your time, and God bless you in what you do. Continue to keep up the good work, and let's stay in touch, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you next time on Focus Today.